I'm pleased to be joined by Fox Sports writer Laken Litman, who covers college football, the Big 12 in particular, and has more frequent flyer miles than any of us writers on the staff. She's been to Qatar and exotic places like Fort Worth. Laken, how you doing?
Yes, very exotic places like Fort Worth. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to have you on to talk about what is in your backyard, right? Start with the University of Texas and the quarterback derby that wasn't. I feel like I was out in front of this telling everybody Arch Manning was not competing for this job, and this was Quinn Ewers saying, hey, look, I am the guy, be the assertive quarterback that Steve Sarkisian has wanted him to be. That said, do you think that Sark got it right in his quarterback pick?
Yeah, I feel like you said, for people who have really been kind of paying attention to what's going on in Austin, this really was not going to be a quarterback battle. After the spring game, Sarkisian, I guess, technically for the first time, said in as many words that Quinn Ewers is his starting quarterback. But, I don't think that Arch Manning was going to come in as a true freshman and just take the job from a guy who's been here for a little while longer. And, speaking of the spring game, we all know it's a glorified scrimmage, but Quinn Ewers really looked more impressive than he had last year. He changed his mindset. He changed his body comp. He looked leaner, specifically like in his face, in his core. He looked confident. He had some really, good long passes. He had that one to Xavier Worthy. He had a touchdown to A.D. Mitchell, who made a spectacular grab in the end zone. He never really looked like he was in danger of making a mistake or turning the ball over. And after the game, he told reporters that he didn't like where he was at last year. And, after a conversation in the offseason with Sarkisian, he himself made changes, so that he could end up to get to where he wants to be. Now, he obviously didn't say, he didn't really tell us or elaborate where he wants to be, but I think we can all guess what that means.
I think we can. I was also taken aback to find out that Malik Murphy is kind of taking a leap, and I'm very excited about that. Quickly, do you think that he has the goods to come in and be a backup quarterback if something were to happen to Quinn Ewers like it did against Alabama last year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we didn't really get to see him last year because he was injured and he's still not quite 100%. That's Murphy I'm talking about. But he made some big time throws in the spring game. I mean, a lot of people in the press box were really, surprised to see him play that well. He looked confident. He was poised in the pocket, made some really zippy passes. He had a few perfectly thrown deep balls. One was dropped by DeAndre Moore. Another was a 79-yard touchdown bomb to Jonte Cook. And Sarkisian said afterwards, the sky's the limit for him. And, what's interesting is he did not enter the transfer portal. So he wants to be at UT. And I think that, if something were to happen to Ewers, he would come in and would have things rolling pretty seamlessly.
I'm excited about Malik Murphy. I've been excited about him since he was a prospect coming out of California. He's got all the tools, and it's nice to see that he is finally beginning to show signs of development. You mentioned Jonte Cook. We know about Xavier Worthy. We know about Isaiah Nair, even though he didn't get to play a lot last year. But I'm really curious about the backfield. As you know, Bijan Robinson was drafted at number 8 overall in last weekend's NFL draft to the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm very excited for Bijan, character guy, as we talk about. You wrote a great feature at foxsports.com last year heading into what is a pivotal year for Texas, because now they get to claim a first-round draft pick for the first time since 2015 and the first time on the offensive side of the ball since 2005, going into 2006 NFL draft, after Vince Young, took apart USC in a national championship game. I'm not afraid to say it. That said, do you feel good about their backfield and the guys that they have, that maybe they have another Bijan Robinson back there?
Yeah, I think it's hard to really know, what Texas has in the backfield right now, only because Bijan and Roschon Johnson, who was also drafted last week, they took the majority of the snaps, and they were also, they played the majority. They played the majority of the snaps. So we don't really know what else there was, behind them last year. I mean, there's we can get excited, I guess. We got a glimpse of Jaden Blue and CJ Baxter. Both of them were top prospects with Baxter. He was a 5-star coming out of Florida, and he was the number 1 overall running back in his class. Both of them got touches in the spring game. And Bijan Robinson comes back from last year. Jonathan Brooks, he returns. And Brooks he was, I guess, technically 3rd string last year, had a big 70-yard touchdown run against Kansas last year and a UT win. There's also Savion Red, former wide receiver turned running back. Point is, there's a lot of skill, a lot of guys, who could end up being playmakers, but we just don't really know. All we know is that Texas has a lot of good options.
I'm really excited about that backfield because I do think they can go 5 deep. And as with all things Texas, it's never about do they have the talent. It's about can they get that talent to get to a place where they not only can win multiple games, but play in a Big 12 championship and win one, maybe make the college football playoff for the first time in their history, which leads me to right down the road from you, Texas Christian, coming off of not just making it to the college football playoff after losing the Big 12 championship, which I think is really the key here, but as a national runner-up. You got to see them at their spring game. How does Chandler Morris look coming back as, well, what was the best quarterback on campus and just didn't get a chance to show it, so we think, last year?
Well, I actually wasn't at their spring game, but I did go visit campus a couple weeks ago, and I talked to Sonny. I talked to a couple of players. I talked to the athletic director, and really kind of the overall consensus there was, they don't expect to necessarily win or contend for national championships every single year, but now they know what it's like. And I think it's like one of the most interesting things there was that, like, the expectations are different, they're higher, but last year they were admittedly, happy to be there. Like, they literally said, we came into that national championship game happy to be there, and they can't use that excuse anymore. But going back to, talking about Chandler Morris, of course, we know what happened last year. He was, he earned the starting job, was injured, and then Max Duggan took over. But he's projected to be the 2023 starter. But Sonny did just add another quarterback from the portal, an Oregon State transfer, Chance Nolan, and he started 20 games over the last 3 seasons. He was injured last year, so he didn't play a ton in 2022. But I didn't even realize, but Chandler Morris and redshirt freshman Josh Hoover, they have 1 start between them. So at least now they have a guy who can come in, he has experience and can push the quarterback room.
I think they also got better offensively, if you can believe it, even after losing Quentin Johnston and Kendre Miller, along with Max Duggan, to the NFL draft, and adding guys like JoJo Earl, a Brockermeyer brother, right? I believe it's Tommy Brockermeyer they added on the offensive line, along with Trey Sanders, like Alabama coming through, Jared Wiley coming from Texas. They feel like they have some pieces there for Kendall Briles to work with. I also am very curious about this, being excited to be there at the national championship game because they played like it. It's the worst bowl loss in the history of bowls. And I wonder how much of that sting has stayed with Texas Christian going into this spring and into the summer.
Yeah. So Chandler Morris said, I think actually it was after the spring game, he told reporters that, we're not even thinking about that anymore, which is kind of hard to believe because after the national championship game, Sonny Dykes said, it's going to take a while for the sting to go away. But I did ask him, I said, has the sting gone away? And he hasn't said, not 100% yet, but they are completely it seems like they've turned over to looking forward to the fall and not, thinking about dwindling on what happened in the national championship game. So yeah, I think you can expect them to maybe not contend for a national championship again, but they're going to make a run at the Big 12. I think it's going to be the Big 12 is wide open. We just talked about Texas and how many weapons they have. TCU's offense, of course, had a ton of turnover, but they returned 7 starters on defense. So I don't think that they might not make another incredibly surprising, shock the world kind of run again this fall, but I think they're here to stay is what I came away with after my visit with them.
I'm inclined to believe you on two fronts. First, the Big 12 is wide open with 14 teams, the only year it's going to have that. And what is a pivotal year for every team involved, right? Not the least of which is Texas Christian, who gets to say, hey, we made nothing of Bijan when we went down to Austin and we gave them the business. Texas will want to avenge that loss on its way out with a number of other, things to check off before they leave the Big 12. But it does bring around this idea of big games with Texas Christian, right? Because that was what their year was about last year. Every game became a big game because they need to come back to win it up until they couldn't. That said, they have what I think is one of the most intriguing week 1 games of 2023 on the schedule, and they get to play Colorado at home, right, at Amon G. Carter. How do you feel about that game? Are you excited about it in the way that I'm excited about it?
I think so. I mean, I'm super excited. I mean, who's not excited to see, Coach Prime make his D1 Power 5 debut, and he's doing it against a team in TCU that, really needs to win that home opener after the national championship disaster. So, I'm super excited. And I think, of course, Deion will have a ton of people, from the Dallas-Fort Worth area at that game. It's probably going to be, like the biggest hyped up game of week 1. And yeah, I'm just excited to see, the Coach Prime era in Colorado begin.
As am I. Laken Litman, who is living in the same space where, gave us Deion Sanders his coaching career, Dallas-Fort Worth area. Very excited to have you on the show. Before I get you out of here, though, man, how long is Becky Sauerbrunn going to keep playing on my women's national team? Because it feels like she's been playing on that team since I was a child.
Yeah, I think that's fair. She's going to be 38 at this World Cup, but so is Megan Rapinoe. Props to them Becky Sauerbrunn is the captain of this team, and she's still starting at center back. I mean, who knows? She has not told anybody when she plans to retire yet. So
may it be years from now, so I can talk about a Becky Sauerbrunn playing into her 60s. Laken Litman, who will be in Australia and New Zealand to cover her second World Cup inside of 8 months, living her best life. Laken, thanks so much for joining us here on the #1 College Football Show.
Thank you, RJ.
Thank you for watching the #1 College Football Show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.